Good afternoon. Hello, Yair Golan, the chairman of the Democrats Party. Good afternoon. I can't see anything. I'm completely blinded by the lights. Hello. Let's start with what happened last night in the Knesset. Let's talk for a moment about the Haredi parties. At the end of the day, the law wasn't passed. At the end of the day, there will not be such a law because in 2 more weeks we'll finish the summer term of the Knesset. Let's talk about Netanyahu. Maybe he didn't sell those who serve. We all know that Netanyahu, in order to survive politically, would have sold the serving populations time and time again. You can't say he didn't try to. He was blocked because even within his own party, it is very, very hard to make this circle into a square. You can't bring a draft Dodge law that in fact gives so many reasons why we can be exempted from draft and then call that the security conscription law. So at some point you need to face reality, face the truth. And I want to say it here, mainly to my Haredi friends. You are either partners and live with us here, and then you also need to take the burden of economy, of service, of any other kind of civil burden, or you are not with us, but there's not really any other possibility. You must, my address is very simple. You, my brothers and sisters, I love you. I love you and also acknowledge the value of Torah and the need to study. There's no contradiction between the value of Torah and the value of studying and the value of serving. And just as my own children, my own sons, went and served a very significant service and then went to study, and they know very well. I have a son, my elder, he's now working on his PhD dissertation. So also if you're a Haredi, a young man or woman, you can do exactly the same thing. And this is where we need to aspire to. I am not delusional, I'm realistic. We can't just snap a finger and make it happen immediately, but we must create a process. And so I wanted to address the Haredi society and say something simple. You are our brothers and sisters. You must take part of the burden upon yourselves. You are too heavy for us to be able to carry you on our backs all by ourselves. When I enlisted to IDF, we had 4.5% of the population was Haredi. Now it's 13.5% of the population. They are just too big of a population, and I want to tell them, come and be our partners, because we cannot carry on ourselves on our own. I think that the message is quite clear. I want to ask you whether this process and the way it is done now is not too aggressive for them, and whether we won't see any prices, social prices that we will need to pay. And I'm asking that in regards to the judiciary reform. We always ask the right wings, what is the price you're willing to pay in order to realize this principle that is at the core of your agenda? And I'm asking you the exact same question. Are you willing to pay the social price of a society who feels that suddenly tables have turned? I think that we need to create a process. This is my message. My message is that it needs to be very clear what is the direction we are headed, where we want to arrive at. This government was founded on a promise to the Haredi that we will exempt you. We'll create a law to exempt you. And this was a terrible sort of principle that came from Netanyahu. A leadership, a true leadership, should have told the Haredis, we will create a process together, but this is what is being done now. No, absolutely not. For several years, it will be spread out. The process that was created up to this point is a process of dodging the draft. We need to create a process of enlisting, and I'm not being delusional. It won't all happen calmly and agreeably. In some places, we need to know how to enforce, and enforcement doesn't need to be intense. What do you mean when you say enforce? I mean, will you send the army police to Bnei Brak? What we need to do, first of all, first step, before even dealing with the new conscription law, if I now would start, found a government, first and foremost, I would immediately cancel the postponement of service. There's no such a thing anymore. And then there's no place where the state, the taxpayers' money will be paying for young Haredi men who, instead of enlisting to the IDF, would remain in the yeshiva to study. This doesn't happen anymore. If you don't want to serve, first and foremost, sign like the Haredi women, sign up that you are only studying rather than serving, but you will not be budgeted by the state. Now, let's start our discussion about whether you are enlisting or not. Next, I would start with a positive campaign. I want to tell you that I met quite many young Haredi men who work in the Zaka and emergency forces, and they worked a lot during the first days of the war, and they want to be enlisted, they want to serve. We talk to them. Even also, Haredi population is not one. They are different people, so you can positively speak to them. So what I'm saying is combination of financial sanctions together with a positive campaign would have already yesterday would be able to bring to the IDF thousands of Haredis. But you don't want to see the military police in the Bnei Brak city. I don't think it's practical to start arresting thousands of Haredi men. It's not the practical solution for Israel, and we also have the responsibility. I feel very profound responsibility to not create more rifts, but rather connections. So we need to know how to create a process that is something that constructive rather than destructive. But in order for that to happen, we need to have a government that truly decides that the objective is conscription, even if it takes time. This is a process that needs to be created in an educated manner, but this will be the final goal. And I think that generally speaking, the state of Israel, with its very specific, special terms, every 18-year-old man or woman needs to serve. Now let's talk a bit about Gaza. I want to ask you about the prolonging of the continuity of the war there. And this week, Netanyahu had security meetings, and he explained that the fighting there must continue because of strategic reasons and how the enemy sees us and the spirit and the resilience and our willingness to terminate Hamas and not leave before we finish. Do you understand what he's talking about? It's political discourse. It's not professional. I'm here leaning on my very long years in service. This word of fighting terror and guerrilla is not a new thing. It has rules. We didn't invent it. In order to create a true change in the Gaza Strip, it's not enough to terminate the Hamas military forces, and we have terminated enough of the military forces of Hamas. Not all of it, though. Well, we're not able to completely terminate them to the very last grenade or RPG. It's not going to happen. The true way to destroy Hamas is to create an alternative government to Hamas. So the right way to deal with Gaza is to create an agreement to release hostages, a long ceasefire, and creating a new alternative government to Hamas with the mitigated Palestinian entities, with the Sunni states that are more mitigated, without the Qatars, but with the Emirates and the Saudis, in order to create a government alternative to Hamas. Our goal at the end of the day, thank you. Our goal is that a Palestinian young man in Gaza will wake up in the morning and say, what is better for me, digging tunnels for Hamas again, or going to the Emirates contractor who pays me well? This is where we need to find ourselves. We need to create the rule of order that is not by the tyranny of Hamas, but rather by a Sunni mitigated entity. I can tell you this. I met the Emirates Minister of Foreign Affairs, and they're willing to put a lot of money and send a lot of manpower, and they are considered very good manpower in order to create a peacekeeping operation within the Gaza Strip. I spoke to the Jordanians. They are willing to contribute to this process. Why are we not taking the Gaza issue to use it as a leverage to create a lot of settlements all around the region with the mitigated Sunni entities in front of Iran, vis-a-vis Iran? Why are we not using this? Why are we not using what we've achieved during this war? I want to ask you about the humanitarian city, because you also mentioned something about it. The opposition, almost wall to wall, is against it, but at the end of the day, the Minister of Finances and all of the political statesmen say, if we want to cut off Hamas and realize our objectives, there's no other way to do so but founding this city that in fact will be some sort of buffer. It's hard to talk talk about these sayings in a serious manner. Why? Let me remind you that people said things about the Philadelphia Axis, the most important things, and after that they said the same thing about Netzarim. It's not serious. I want to talk to the audience here, even if I can't see them at the moment due to the lights. Do you know what it means to create a city for more than 600,000 people? It's bigger than Tel Aviv. It's delusional. So it's a question of hundreds of millions of shekels and several months of work with tools that already exist in Gaza and we can use. But the chief of general staff came and said, you want to build a city for 600,000 people, you need to understand it will take at least 2 years, and the price is billions. And then they told him, no way, impossible, we're not willing. This idea is not realistic, it's not practical, and in fact I think that what we see compared to the policy of the government in Gaza is a terrible combination. On the one hand, they have messianistic worldviews under which they said terrible things, and on the other hand, lack of skill, lack of talent of the first degree that enables different ideas that are completely delusional to run around in the public arena as if it's something practical, but it's not practical. Let me remind you that the previous impractical idea was to exile all of the population of Gaza. How many Gazans have been exiled since then? Well, this is an idea that, well, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Here in Israel, immediately, people jumped up on their feet and said, it's a wonderful idea. The Prime Minister adopted it. Nothing came out of it. Why? Because it's impractical. Let me tell you, that a city for 600,000 people in the south of Gaza is impractical. It's an impractical idea. In order to bring a real solution to save from our soldiers the need to be killed continuously within Gaza. Something else that happened yesterday was the attempt to throw MK Ayman Odeh out of the Knesset, and it failed. And what is your red line between freedom of speech? What is your red line to say there are certain statements that I'm not willing to accept? The question is not where my red line passes, and I don't think the description is correct. The problem is not Ayman Odeh. The problem is that people are trying to ruin the Israeli democracy. Today it's Ayman Odeh, tomorrow it will be me, and the next day after that it's you, the people of the media, who will say if you don't say the right thing, then go home. We need to understand the process. The overall process is that the dismantling of the Israeli democracy, and I don't want to talk about the limit. What is the limit? If you go against the basics of the Israel, if they say Gaza will win, I think that first of all, in order for such a process to become a true, real process, first of all, it needs to come in from the judiciary system and not directly through the Knesset. It can't happen that the Knesset determines on its own who will sit within it and who will sit outside of it. The ones who determine who will sit in the Knesset are the people of Israel, and the ones who need to decide whether something is legal or illegal, or is it traitorous, is the judiciary system. Well, you're also allowed to say your opinion about that, of course, but let go of that at the moment because you haven't really responded to the question. I'll be happy to understand what I didn't answer to. If such statements as were said by Ayman Odeh, are they legitimate? I want to tell you, it is an annoying statement. I hated it, but should he be dismissed from Knesset due to that? No. Gadi Eisenkot, did you speak to him lately? I maintain open channels with as many politicians as possible, as well as Gadi Eisenkot. Why won't you run together? This is what I proposed many, many months ago. I think that in the state of Israel, both of you together, of course, I think that in the state of Israel, we should see an axis that is Democrat, liberal, that is big and strong, to be a promising governmental alternative to the great majority of the people of Israel. But if he comes to your party, could he head this party? This is not about the move. I told him many months ago. To me, it's not a personal question. Whoever can bring more mandates should head the party. It's not a personal thing. I could have be sitting today at home, on my sofa, enjoy my granddaughter, and expect the two next grandsons that I'm expecting by the end of the year, and be happy with myself. But I'm here because we have a state we need to save, and I think that all of us here feel how much threatened are our basics of our livings, and it comes from within more than from the outside. So to sum up, if Adi Eisenkot can bring more mandates, he should head the party, absolutely. And one last question regarding Naftali Bennett, another player in your bloc. Is he a legitimate prime minister? Could he stand in the head of the next government? I want to tell you that I was a member of the government headed by Naftali Bennett, so this is not something that I cannot imagine. Yes, but you gave him a government that was very, very narrow. And I don't think that that was the problem. It was stable. But, you know, he only had 6 mandates and he was the prime minister, so that's quite irregular. Yes, it is. There was a very important precedent there within the coalition. I see it as a positive move. That means Israel is mature. Its maturity allows it to also bring in the minority to the government in an appropriate way. And I think that Naftali Bennett is absolutely a coalition partner that is relevant. That being said, my job is to build within the future coalition the bloc, the cornerstone that is democratic liberal, that will be able to lead Israel into the safe place, a national home for all of the Jewish home, conservatives, reforms, whatever, and at the same time a free country that is that has equality and democracy. The head of the Democrats Party, Yair Golan, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, both of you.